So there we go. So this is the building that I am going to be talking about this evening. The Savoy cinema opened in 1936 by ABC. You can see ABC here, Associated British Cinemas. I'm sure the building is familiar to all of you, but in case it's not, this is its current incarnation. Earth, so about 10-minute walk away from here. So this amazing music, arts, cultural centre that opened in 2018, but started life in 1936. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a lifelong cinema nerd. This is my first ever cinema ticket to see Superman 2 at a different ABC, actually, the ABC in Bournemouth in 1981. It's been a lifelong passion ever since. One way that I explore that interest is through walking tours. I lead walking tours about the history of cinemas and cinema going across London. I put a flyer on some of the chairs for this tour. This is exploring cinemas in the West End, but I've got tours in Islington, Acton, Camden Town, and I also have this website called Memory Palaces, which is attempting to survey the history of cinemas and cinema going through 100 buildings that are still visible, that either are or have been cinemas. But yeah, as Amir said, he asked me to do this talk, and I was like, you already did this very talk about Stoke Newington cinemas, in 2019. What else can I add? But I remembered, I was here last year. This is one of my favorite places in the world. This is the Cinema Theatre Association archive. It is on an industrial estate just outside Southend. And inside, they have got a file on pretty much every single cinema that has ever existed in this country. So for a nerd like me, it is absolute heaven. And I was there last year doing some research into a new tour, and towards the end of the day, Clive, who's their head archivist, said, "Oh, Nigel, you might want to look at this. We've got this box. You can see Stoke Newington, Savoy, ABC, rescued from the cinema 2018 by Andrew Woodyard." So 2018, this is when the building was being converted into Earth. This is Andrew. He is, if you don't know him, he is essentially the in-house kind of archivist and historian at the Rio cinema. So the Rio, pretty much next door to the cinema that we are talking about this evening. So I started rummaging in the box. This is all some of the stuff that is in it. And the first thing that caught my eye was this. Macintosh's order book, form number 47. It looks like it could be out of a Wes Anderson film. I think if you're not familiar with Macintoshes, Yorkshire-based confectioners founded by this guy, John Mackintosh, the toffee king. They later merged with Rowntree Mackintosh. And this is what's inside that book. It's the order form. So some of these very familiar, Quality Street, Rolo, Munchies, Toffee Crisp. Some of these don't exist anymore. Good News, Reward, all of a bygone era. But everything from the box was all from sort of like the mid-1960s. So sort of 1964 to 1968. So I thought, this is exactly the sort of niche history that Amir absolutely loves. So why give you a broad sweep of history? I'm not even going to give you the broad sweep of history, really, of the cinema. Why would I do that when we can talk about stolen Maltesers? So this is one of the bits of correspondence that I found in the box from Mars. Arrangements are now in hand for replacements to be forwarded in respect of the 5 boxes of 1 shilling 9 pence Maltesers pilfered from one of the cases which have been broken open. It wasn't just Maltesers. We've also advised there's one case of double bounty found to be missing. We trust that these arrangements will meet with your approval. So before I talk about what else is in the box, I will just give you a very, very brief overview of the history of the cinema. So, as I said, it opened in 1936. This is a golden age, really, of cinema going. We're sort of less than a decade out of the silent era. 1936, when this cinema opens, cinema attendance in the country, in the UK, is over 900 million tickets sold every year. Last year, it was about 170 million, so if you want to make a little bit of a comparison. Opens, this is the opening ceremony, and the film, so huge Hollywood stars, Gary Cooper, Jean Arthur in Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. This is the auditorium. So like pretty much, well, like every single cinema in this country up until the 1970s, just one screen. The Savoy had 1,800 seats divided into the circle and in the stalls below. This is a view, Stoke Newington Road in the 1940s. Within a decade of the cinema opening, ticket sales in this country have exceeded 1 billion. That's during World War II. Cinema sales go up during World War II. By 1946, 1.6 billion tickets are being sold. Now, like I said, most of the stuff, well, all of the stuff in that box is from the 1960s. 1962, ABC, the company who built the cinema, they rechristened it formally just the ABC. It's no longer the Savoy. By this stage, 1962, cinema attendance in the country is below 400,000 a year. By the end of the decade, under 200,000. So this period that I'm going to be showing you all of this material from is a time when cinema going is really in steep decline in this country. 1973, ABC get rid of the cinema. It immediately reopens as the Konak. And closes in the early 80s, becomes the Ace, very, very shabby by this stage, and basically kind of struggles on for a couple of years as the Ace. And in 1984, it closes. Al Pacino in Scarface is actually the last film that was ever shown there. 1984 is the worst ever year at the UK box office. So this is a time when people are going to the video shop. There's more to option. There's far more entertainment options. Cinema attendance by this time is 54 million a year. So that means people are barely going at all, if they are going. But reborn as Earth, and you really get a sense. If those of you who've been there, I'm sure. Plenty of you have been there. You do get a sense of what the auditorium and these 1930s Art Deco features look like. I'm just going to show you these are some pictures that Amir shared with me. This is before the renovation was done. Amir went in and had a little bit of a rummage, as you completely unsurprisingly. And one of my favorite pictures, in the back of every seat, an ashtray, of course. Because until relatively recently, if you go to the cinema, you were looking at the screen through a thick fog of smoke quite often. So this is basically what the building looked like when all of this material was salvaged. So let's sort of talk a little bit about other little bits and bobs that I found in this box. And what you really get a sense of is just the amount of sort of kind of quite boring administration and quite mundane stuff that's happening. Running a cinema in the 1960s, certainly for ABC, was not a glamorous job. This is from 1965. We'll be talking about this guy quite a lot. H.C. Burridge, he's the district manager. He runs all of the ABC cinemas in North London, about 14 cinemas in the area. And if you can't read what this is about, it's about the bins. Because head office are beginning to receive increasing demands for plastic dustbins, as opposed to the older type of galvanized bins. In this connection, therefore, will you please let me have your general opinion on the economics of these two types in use as soon as possible, please. Burridge, District Manager Burridge, is a little bit of a tyrant, as we will see. A little bit later, more interest in cleaning. Head office now heard from Industrial Soaps Limited that they've issued instructions to local depots concerning the arrangement and collection of the empty domestos containers. And then a few years later, by 68, we've got a new district manager, L.S. Johnson, and his update, still to do with cleaning, is to advise us that they've had to cancel all outstanding orders on this company for applicators and impregnated mops. If managers require this type of equipment for their theatres, a new Form 4 should be raised. I don't know if any of you have seen Terry Gilliam's film Brazil, but a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of form filling. This is what comes to mind when you look at these papers. This is a missive from Burridge from 1964 about the staff rooms. He's not very happy about the state of the staff rooms. Still getting adverse reports from the Council of Health Inspectors. And this is classic Burridge, underlining immediate action to clean up and make, I repeat, all staff rooms tidy and presentable. And we're talking about the mid-60s. You'll be unsurprised to see a fair amount of casual sexism in the correspondence. So this is how we can clean up the staff rooms. Perhaps curtain material, female staff could make these up for you. But he's also recommending they chuck out some chairs, they lock out the washers. In fact, a blitz on staff rooms now, please. Underlined. This is a letter, inter-office letter form number 16. Again, got a bit of the Wes Anderson about it. This is Wells. He's the assistant manager, slightly frustrated correspondent to Mr. Burridge. I can offer no logical explanation as to why this should be. He's talking about regarding our admission decrease, but perhaps the fact that our opposition theatres, which, as you know, are practically next door, are charging a much lower admission price, could have some bearing on our lower admissions. So there's an awful lot of competition with cinemas in this period. Amir's talk earlier, the talk that he did just showed how many cinemas were in close proximity. So the Rio, as you'll know it, it's called the Classic in the 60s. This was more of a sort of foreign movies, independent movies, so perhaps not the same kind of crossover audience with the ABC. But this is the Odeon. This was opposite Dalston Kingsland Station. So we're basically 5 minutes walk from the ABC. So direct competition. This building was demolished, I think, in about 1984. But kind of keeping an eye on the opposition wasn't just sort of something you did. It was basically part of the job description. So this is from District Manager Johnson. I would remind you that it is long-standing company instruction. You make frequent periodic checks with your opposition, and if any variation of price ranges comes, you must notify Mr. Coombs immediately. Again, a plea from Burridge, do everything you can to increase all sales in your theatre. We have now reached the lowest position on the district league table. So there's a lot of company-encouraged competition between all of the different areas in the country about how they're performing on sales. A lot of advice on how to promote specific films. This is a letter I found, again, from our friend Burridge, encouraging promotion of this film, The Spy with My Face. MGM has spent a very considerable sum on advertising. MGM's executives will be visiting many theatres, keenly interested in this Uncle membership stunt. It was actually A Man from Uncle. The film, all it was basically an extended episode of The Man from Uncle. This is the poster from it, but they've all of this effort put into publicising it. Sadly, I'm not sure our friends at ABC Stoke Newington were particularly effective in their marketing efforts. This is a league table, first quarter 1968, right at the bottom, northeast London, so that's where our cinema is. L.S. Johnson is not happy. Bottom of the whole country. Very poor effort indeed. Remember, it's evidence which scores points. A campaign with no evidence gains only 1 point. Now, one area where the cinemas did build an audience was with children. So I'm sure many of you know, all of the big cinema chains would have their Saturday mornings kids clubs. And this is a letter from, of course, it's from District Manager Burridge, but it's about the London County Council decreasing the age in which it was allowed to admit children into the Saturday morning kids clubs. Everywhere else in the country, it was 7 years old. Everywhere else in the country it was 5 years old, but in London it was 7. But he's pleased to have informed the GLC decision to adapt 5 years as the minimum age, so in line with the rest of the country. Again, a little bit patronising. Parents will obviously be interested in this development. It's an opportunity to enjoy their shopping in comfort. And I must urge you to announce the good news to the medium of your local press. In the meantime, the Minors Department, new section in the trailer, amending the age from 7 to 5 years.
That's the attitude of most parents, and it's the policy that ABC adopt too, with their Saturday Minors matinees. Just look at those happy faces. They're certainly going to enjoy the fun, while their parents get on with the Saturday shopping. It all starts here with the shooting of films which are produced specially for youngsters with the help of the Children's Film Foundation. It may well be an exciting historical adventure like this, the thrills and spills of Australian surfboat racing. Ever-popular comedy classic.
From the age of 5. That's the really, really important thing. And it was something like, there's another bit of correspondence that actually that increased their sales by about 20%, getting those extra 2 years of kids into the cinemas on a Saturday morning. The other way kids predictably helped boost up the coffers was by buying a load of sweets. So this is, Theatre Sales Department Form 30. So this tracks all of the confectionery sales in the auditorium that the ushers and usherettes would sell. And there's another great trailer, advert advertisement. I think leading brands of cigarettes are also available at this little hatch. So like I said, what you see here is a lot of kind of office politics, a lot of bureaucracy, and I see, it's only really through, there's about 100 letters in that, but it kind of, especially District Manager Burridge, you can imagine him in a sitcom of that era, and the poor sort of manager of the ABC, this sort of like put upon worker who's like, oh God, not another missive from Burridge. So I'm just going to finish showing you one final little bit of correspondence. So one of the things all of these managers were encouraged to do was to sell essentially raffle tickets based on big horse races. So this is a ticket for the St. Leger, September 1965, and all of the proceeds go to the Cinematograph and Television Benevolent Fund. So this is the letter from Burridge sending out to the ABC Stoke Newington with the tickets, and he's very keen. Please do your very best to dispose of the books enclosed. So big sales drive. Let's raise lots of money for the Benevolent Fund. And, all hands on deck. And you can imagine poor old manager ABC is like, oh God, Burridge, again. This is his reply. Dear Mr. Burridge, I deeply regret that I have not sold more tickets for you. But your tickets arrived rather late, after we had been inundated with a number of similar efforts. Yours faithfully, J.J. Morgan, manager. So as I said, there's about 120 documents in this box, all sort of kind of very, very similar, fairly mundane, but sort of what I hope, just by sort of flipping through them and showing them to you, kind of get a real sense of what actually, certainly working in one of these cinemas was like at a period when cinema going in this country was an absolute decline. So they were doing really, really all they can to sell tickets, sell sweets, sell Butterkist, sell raffle tickets. And just one little kind of coda in terms of the history of the Savoy. So after I met Andrew Woodyatt a few weeks ago at the Rio, he sent me this news clipping about when the cinema, the Ace as it was then, finally closed. And it's about the house cat. The Ace's closure next Thursday means a change of home for the house cat, Queenie. She's been given a free transfer to the neighbouring Rio, now Hackney's only cinema. This is 1984, where she will be back at work in an old job, catching mice. And because everybody loves a cat photo, here is Queenie in full colour in her then new home of the Rio just next door. So thank you very much. One, just indulge me just a little bit of self-promotion just before the Q&A. If you are interested in sort of exploring these topics in kind of less niche detail, a bit broader history, this is my website. That QR code is a mailing list. So it'd be great to see you on a walking tour at some point.